The Disappointments Room is based on a supposedly true story about a haunted house in Rhode Island that was owned by a prominent judge. Him, his wife, and children lived there until they mysteriously moved in 1900. When the DeMoss family bought the home, they found a strange room in the attic. Child's toys were found in the walls. When Mrs. DeMoss told one of her co-workers at the library about the strange room, she was told it was a disappointments room. She did research on the house and found the judge and his family's plot in the Woodland Cemetery. There was the name of Ruth, date of birth 1895, death date 1900. There was never a record of a child named Ruth born to the judge and his wife. The movie Disappointments Room was filmed in a mansion in Greensboro, North Carolina, where a little girl with a disability was hidden away by her family in the attic. This story I'm about to tell is about a little girl who claims to see the ghost of a little boy in the attic. These events happened many years ago in an old colonial-style house in Rhode Island. The house had been empty for many years when a small family decided to purchase it, a man, his wife, and their 6-year-old daughter. The couple set about renovating the house, and there was a lot of work to do. While they were busy working, they allowed the little girl to play up in the attic. After a few weeks, work on the rooms downstairs were almost finished, and the mother had more time to spend with her daughter. However, the little girl kept going back up to the attic to play alone. Finally, the mother asked her why she liked going up there to play so much. The child replied that she liked playing with the little funny boy in the attic. "What little boy?" the mother asked. "The little boy with the brass buttons," the child replied. The mother brought her daughter up to the attic, but it was completely empty. "He went in there," the little girl insisted, pointing to the chimney that went up through the attic. The little girl kept insisting that there was a little boy and that he lived in the chimney. The mother was becoming impatient with her daughter and threatened to punish her for telling lies. When the father came home, he gave his daughter a lecture about making up stories that weren't true. However, the little girl kept insisting so strongly that she saw the little funny boy with the brass buttons that the parents began to believe her. The father was curious and decided to investigate the history of the house. He found that it had previously been owned by a judge who had 3 children, 2 boys and a girl. The youngest boy was born mentally handicapped. His father was ashamed of him and never allowed him to be seen by others, and never allowed him outside of the disappointments room. Only a few neighbors and family members even knew he existed. One day, the judge's sister had asked to see the little boy, and the judge refused. The sister then insisted to check on the well-being of her nephew, and that's when the judge told her he had disappeared overnight. The sister then reported it to the police. The next day, the poor little boy's cap and jacket was found floating in a nearby river by a man and his son who were out fishing that day. They assumed a child had drowned there and notified the police. The police reported it as an accidental drowning. However, his body was never recovered. Shortly after the little boy's disappearance, the judge put up the house for sale and moved west with his family and surviving children. Nobody knew exactly where the judge had gone. When the little girl's father heard this story, he was suspicious and decided to search the attic thoroughly. He brought his little girl upstairs and asked her to show him where the little boy came from. Again, she pointed to the chimney. Her father demolished the chimney. After removing the bricks and cement, he was horrified to find a skeleton remains of a little boy. He was wearing a dark blue shirt with brass buttons down the front. Further examination revealed that the back of the child's skull had been crushed by a violent blow. The little boy had been murdered by his own father. The family ended up moving out of the house. The little boy's bones were given a decent burial, and the affair was kept quiet. But the question is, now that the boy has been buried, will that keep his spirit quiet inside that house? What is a disappointments room? Historically, these rooms were used for parents who had a child with a disability, and they wanted to keep them a secret from the rest of the world. They hid them away in a secret room somewhere visitors never went, like an attic or an upper floor. At that time in history, some people felt there was shame attached to having a disabled or disfigured child, so they locked them away from society. This was more common than you'd think. Either they kept them locked up in an institution or hid them away at their own home. We all know what kind of horrors happened to children in institutions back then.